and welcome to this week's episode of DIY History. I'm Cassidy Cash. In Shakespeare's play Hamlet, the ghost of Hamlet's father shows up and tells of his betrayal by poison, and he uses the term posset to describe a custard-like consistency that the poison brings to the blood. Later in Macbeth, Lady Macbeth talks about poisoning the possets of the people that might reveal her treachery when they are plotting against King Duncan. Apparently, there was a direct association between poison and posset, but it gets a happier note in Merry Wives of Windsor, where posset is mentioned again twice. And both times it's mentioned as something not only pleasant, but even extended as an invitation. In Act 1, Mistress quickly says, "Go and we'll have a posset for soon at night." And then later in Act 5, the page says, "Yet be cheerful, knight, thou shalt eat a posset tonight at my house." It certainly sounds like a fun thing to do, not something they're worried about or scared about, like what happened in Macbeth and Hamlet. So while apparently posset could be used as a vehicle for bringing about the swift demise of your enemies, posset was also a jolly food served at times of frivolity and mirth, like Christmas, which is why we're bringing it up here today in DIY history. Posset is actually very similar to our modern day eggnog, which is why in this week's episode of DIY history, we're going to show you a simple version of how to make it so that you can have a little bit of the 17th century in your holiday this year. Posset started out as a medieval food made by adding wine or ale to milk or cream. And by the time Shakespeare would have been writing about it in his plays, though, posset was a hot drink served pretty commonly at parties, at dinners, when you had people over, or certainly for special occasions. And it was just a very widely made beverage, and there were numerous recipes about how to make it. And the funny thing about posset is that almost none of the recipes are exactly the same. There's a wide inconsistency about exactly how to make it, what's included in it, and what it should be. And all of these recipes are labeled as posset. So there's this wide range of options when it comes to recreating this dish and exactly what it means to be authentic. In addition to being a popular drink to serve, it seems it was also a vehicle for medicating patients. There are recipes dating from 1600 indicating posset should be what you mix medicine in when you're giving medicine to a plague victim to try and get the plague victim to drink it. Mixing my medicine in eggnog sounds like a decent idea. I think if you're going to have to take medicine, mixing it in cream and sugar to get you to do it is a good idea. I don't know why no one told me this when my kids were little. But regardless of which varieties you can find, the primary element of a posset is made from cream and sugar, and it's intended to be drank hot. But if you let it cool, it will turn into this kind of pudding. So it was often eaten as a dessert as well as a drink. And all of these similarities are why I think it compares to eggnog. And while some recipes did not include egg, others certainly did. So today I'm actually going to show you two variations, one in this episode today, and then if you'll come back next week, I'm going to show you a second recipe that has a few more ingredients. So today, the first one we're starting with is I'm going to show you how to make a pretty simple, but still 17th century authentic recipe for something called lemon posset, and it's made without eggs. And then again, next week, come back and check with us. I'm going to make the full eggnog version with eggs and spices as well. That one's actually called sack posset. So if you're watching after the fact, you can look at the playlist or the link that's here on the screen to go and find that. You'll be looking for sack posset to find the episode that's a companion to this one. Now, obviously, you can add anything you like to your posset to flavor it. I mean, it's your kitchen, it's your pot. You can put whatever you want in there. And as we mentioned, in medieval times, they added wine or ale, and some recipes would include cinnamon, mace, and other aromatic spices. One of the most common, though, and a very simple way to make it is called lemon posset. So let's make that here today. We're going to start with 2.5 cups, that's 600 milliliters for those of you across the pond, of heavy cream. And I'm actually going to use coconut cream here because in my house we have dairy allergies and I want my kids to be able to enjoy the fun of eating something from the 17th century. So if you're not averse to dairy though, then you would use regular dairy cream here, and just be sure to use heavy cream instead of milk out of the fridge, but heavy cream or heavy coconut cream will work fine. So 2.5 cups into a saucepan, and we're gonna add a cup of sugar. That's 150 grams. Notice here that this is a 2.5 to 1 ratio. So if you're making this lemon posset for a crowd, you can scale up to make more. We cook this on the stove at medium-high heat until the sugar is completely dissolved, but you don't want to boil the cream. We don't want to curdle this. So get it hot and dissolve the sugar, but do this low and slow, stirring pretty regularly so the sugar doesn't burn and it all melts into the cream. Once it's melted, take everything off the heat and add in the juice of 2 lemons along with their zest from the outside. I find it's easier to do the zest first and then squeeze the juice out of the lemons. You just stir this in, and obviously you will have taken it off of the heat now and you're just stirring it in, but then you drink it. And this was designed to be drank as a hot beverage, but of course if you have any leftovers, you can keep them in the fridge to eat later as a pudding for dessert. So it's just a double dessert. It's a really fun dish. So there you have it. That is a really easy dish. It's also a great make-ahead idea if you're getting ready for an upcoming holiday gathering. And now you even have a few Shakespeare quotes to go along with your fun, authentic 17th century dessert you can take to impress your friends and family this Christmas. Come back next week when I'll share with you how to make the equivalent of 17th century eggnog using the same posset base. So be sure to like and subscribe to the channel so you'll be notified about when you can join me for that episode. Now, as ever, if you do try this recipe out with us, please let me know about it in the comments. I would love to talk with you about how this worked for you and what you thought about making this recipe. That's it for this week. I'm Cassidy Cash, and I hope you learned something new about the Bard. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.